sanamhi te patipatta amatangagaya ladda budhanim buddham bunyamana idam pisanghe ratnam panitam etena saccena svati hotu. Those who have applied themselves properly with a firm desire-free mind to the commandments of Gautama have obtained the highest gain, having plunged into Nibbana and enjoy happiness for free. This excellent jewel is found in the Sangha. By this truth may there be welfare and happiness. Yathindakhilo pathvisitosya chatubhivate yasampakampiyo tatupamam sappurisam vadami yovarya saccani avecha pasati idam visanghe ratanam panitam etena saccena suvati hotu. Just as a post in the front of a city gate is firm in the earth and cannot be shaken by the four winds, like that I declare the righteous man to be, who having penetrated the noble truths sees them clearly. This excellent jewel is found in the Sangha. By the truth may there be welfare and happiness. Yariya saccani vibhavayanti gambhīrapanena sudesitani kincapi te honti dusampramatta yate bhavangattamam madhyanti idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena saccena suvati hotu.
Vivekananda, I give you
Yeah. Those who understand the noble truths, well brought by the profoundly wise Buddha, though they be greatly heedless, will not have to take the eighth birth. This excellent jewel is found in the Sangha. By this truth may there be welfare and happiness. Sahavasadasanam sampadaya tayasudhamma jayita bhavanti sarkaya ditti vichikechitancha silavatam yapiyadatti kinchi. One is attaining the insight of right view. Three things are forsaken by him: self-delusion, doubt, and indulgence in rites and ceremonies, should there be any. Chatuhapaye cha vipamutto chachabhithanani abhabbakattum idampi sanghe ratnam panitam etena saccena suvati hotu. He is released also from the four hells and is incapable of committing the 6 deadly crimes. This excellent jewel is found in the Sangha. By this truth may there be welfare and happiness. Kinchapi sokam akaroti bhavakam kayena vacha udacetasa va abhamba sotasya paticchadaya abhambata dittipatasya vutta idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena saccena suvati hotu. Even if he commits a sinful deed by body or in word or in thought, he is incapable of concealing it. For it is said that such an act is impossible for one who has seen the path. This excellent jewel is found in the Sangha. By this truth may there be welfare and happiness. Vanapagumbe yathapussitagve kimhanamase pathamasnigimhe tatupamam dhammavaram adesai nibbanagamim paramam hitaya idampi buddhe ratanam panitam etena saccena suvati hotu. As a cluster of trees with their tops in bloom in the first heat of the summer month, so the sublime doctrine leading to Nibbana was taught for the highest goal. This excellent jewel is found in the Buddha. By this truth may there be welfare and happiness. Varo varanyo varado varaharo anuttaro dhammawaram madesai idam pibuddhe ratanam panitam etena satchena suvatihotu. The excellent one, knower of the excellent, giver of the excellent, bringer of the excellent, the incomparable one has taught the excellent Dhamma. This excellent jewel is found in Buddha. By this truth may there be welfare and happiness. Khinam Puranam Navamnati Sambhavam Viratta Chitta Itike Bhavasmin Te Khina Bija Avirulhi Chanda Nibbanti Dira Yathayam Padipo Idam Pisanghe Ratanam Panitam Etena Satchena Suvatihotu. With the old karma destroyed, nothing new arisen. Those whose minds are detached from future existence, they have destroyed their seeds of existence. Their desires do not spring up again. Those wise ones go out like this lamb. This excellent jewel is found in the Sangha. By this truth, may there be welfare and happiness. Yani bhutani samagatani Pummani vayani antalikhe tathagatam deva manusya pujitam buddham namassami suvatihotu. Whatever beings have come together here, whether terrestrial or celestial, let us salute the Buddha. The Tathagata is revered by gods and men. May there be welfare and happiness. Yani bhutani samagatani Pummani vayani va antalikhe tathagatam deva manusya pujitam dhammam namassami suvatihotu. Whatever beings have come together here, whether terrestrial or celestial, let us salute the Dhamma. The Tathagata is revered by gods and men. May there be welfare and happiness. Yani bhutani samagatani Pummani vayani va antalikhe tathagatam deva manusya pujitam sangham namassami suvatihotu. Whatever beings who come together here, whether terrestrial or celestial, let us salute the Sangha. The Tathagata is revered by gods and men. May there be welfare and happiness. So we'll meditate for some time. Nati me saranam nanyam Bandhu me saranam varam Etena sachavajena Bhavatu te jayamangalam Nati me saranam nanyam Dhammo me saranam varam Etena sachavajena Bhavatu me jayamangalam Nati me saranam nanyam Sangho me saranam varam Etena sachavajena Bhavatu Sarvamangalam. Sutta Nipath, chapter 4.5.
So we have Deepak, Garima, Srinivasi, Silesh and Sudhakar.
Morning, friends. Morning. Deepak is also joining. He had to go to marriage.
इस एक्चुअली उनकी ब्रदर की आज एंगेजमेंट है.
वहाँ नहीं जाना था.
जाना है तो दोपहर का है ना.
अच्छा. So Deepak, convey our best wishes.
Yes.
Deepak, is audio okay? Hello. So Sudhakar has a request. Sudhakar says, we don't want to interfere your flow. If you could limit the use of Hindi to the minimum, it would really help those unfortunate meditators who don't know Hindi very well.
Okay, thank you. I'll try. मैंने इनके फ़ोन में ब्लूटूथ से ट्रांसफ़र किया था. वो कहाँ पे मिलेगा भाई?
सर डाउनलोड
में होगा.
डाउनलोड नहीं सर. सिर्फ एक ब्लूटूथ का एक या फिर अलग से फोटो बना देते हैं. मिलिए सर.
So we'll study this 4.5 Paramattaka Sutta. Parama means the highest, so it's talking about what is the highest. So naturally the discussion is giving the description of what enlightened being is. So the reference is to a story which comes to the notice of Buddha about disputes between various traditions which are existing at that time. And King Kaushala, he asked them to settle the dispute by bringing them all heretics, and he made some congenitally blind people to look at an elephant, the same story. So apparently it is recorded in a sutta. So he asked those blind men to see the elephant, and each of them gave the different replies. And then the king of Kosala pointed out to the heretics that you are also looking at one part but not the totality. So the Buddha remarked that, O monks, similar to those who are born blind, not knowing what an elephant is, feeling this and that limb from different impressions of the animal, and then keep on disputing. The heretics also, not knowing the doctrine for deliverance, dealing with this and that view, dispute among themselves, in saying that their view, individual view that they make use of, is the absolute. So what he's pointing out is that philosophical disputations can never be settled. It has to be through one's direct experience. So this discourse.
So sir, वो भी सूत्र है जिसमें he collates all the existing doctrines.
That's a big one, Brahmajala Sutta. That is the first sutta of Digha Nikaya. Huge sutta. So you want to study that? Someday we'll study.
And the purpose was to just lay it all out.
Yeah, complete whatever were the 62 kinds of philosophies which are existing at that time. He mentions them and points out that some of them are pure speculation, some are partial realizations. In fact, most of them, he says, are based on partial realizations. A person goes up to a mountain up to a certain level and thinks, oh, it's wonderful, so why go further? So that's the way it is.
तो यहाँ ये जो इकट्ठे हुए हैं, जो किंग पकड़ लिया है सबको.
This is what king of Kosala had done. So now here the Buddha is pointing it out to his monks. So this is a discourse given to the monks that persons who have different kind of perceptions, they think they are right, and most of the time it is because of their personal advantage that they think what is right and what is not right. So a person who is a good true bhikkhu should not depend on such philosophical views, but abandon the notion of self and then really be able to see the things for themselves. Because if the self is abandoned, then the issue of my being superior to you or inferior to you or equal to you, all that is given up. So there is no disputation. Disputation is only to prove that I am better than you, isn't it? My philosophy is superior than yours. So is implied is that there is me and who has a philosophy and who is better than you. So he says if a person can give up the notion of self, then this whole dispute will end automatically. Because he doesn't have any dogmatic views, he doesn't have any desires, and he therefore remains free.
दर्शक ये बताइए, लेकिन ये भी तो आर्ग्यू किया जा सकता है that this is also a philosophical view that there is no self.
That's a question of direct experience. Experience of seeing that there is no self. This itself, if it becomes a view, it will be a pity again.
So
once one is able to see in the sense that one can really live up to that and feel for himself the directly feel the correctness of this perception. No, basically it's a question of perception, isn't it? It's a question of perception. Now, as we have been discussing for long, I think most of us are clear that this body is not me. I don't think it needs now any disputation and argumentation and things of that kind. Away by the same old bondages.
So the distinction between a philosophy or a view,
Philosophy and the right view, it's basically a question of right view versus not right view. So right view is that which is based on realizing that five khandhas are the source of suffering, and that we realize again and again and again, and then abandon the attachment to them, because we see attachment to five khandhas is the source of suffering. And once we abandon the attachment to five khandhas, then there is no issue of personality view. Personality arises from the khandhas. My knowledge, my perception, my habit patterns, my feelings. So if the five khandhas are truly seen to be source of suffering, are abandoned in that way. Abandoned meaning we let them be. We don't take them personally. We don't get attached to them. Then, because it has eliminated the suffering, the person is absolutely sure that this is so. Isn't it? The philosophical views are not going to eliminate the suffering for all times to come. They may do it for some time under certain conditions. The existence of God, for example, does help. Faith in God helps.
So now that is a view.
That is a view, because it doesn't help under all
So
circumstances.
that's a say. The belief in rebirth is also a view.
Yeah, of course.
Isn't it?
That you can't really experience. Belief in rebirth you cannot experience.
So, but it is a what do we call it? It is a extension of this experience that we are having.
Yeah.
Of impersonalness.
And not only that, it is a direct extension of the series of consciousnesses which keep on arising. We feel every moment that sankhara pachya vijnana, isn't it? We feel every moment that whatever vijnana arises, whatever consciousness arises, is governed by the sankhara which arises. Every moment we feel it. And therefore, we can believe that since there are still sankharas felt at the end of life, it will lead to some other vijnana somewhere. So to that extent, it is a leap of faith. But during the life, we are also feeling it. It is being felt by us throughout our living moment. So to that extent, it is, of course. So let us read them. Rajesh?
परमन्ति दित्थिषु परिबස්සनो युधितरी
Yad Uttari.
यदुत्तरी
The highest.
यदुत्तरी कुरुतु जानु लोके
Kurute Jantu Loke.
Jantu
Jantu is a
Loke.
being in the world. Kurute means does.
हिनाति अन्ये ततो
Hinati means low. Anya means others.
ततो सब्बमाह
Sabbamaha. He talks like that. He says that everything else is low.
तस्मा विवादानि अवित्तिवत्तो.
Avittivatto. So from Vivadas, from disputations, he cannot be free. So a person who abides with certain philosophical view and considers it is the highest and claims this is the most excellent, everything else is inferior, then he is bound to get into disputes. There is no way that he cannot get into disputes. 803.
यदा तानि पश्यति अनिशसं विद्धि सुते शिलाते मुक्ति वा तदेव सो तथा समग्रया नहीं तो न तो पश्यति सर्वमानं
Manyam. Yad attani pashyati anishamam. Attani, apni jo, one who sees in his own advantage. Anishamam is his own advantage. Ditthe sute silvate muteva. From whatever he has seen or heard or thought. Tadeva so tattha samuggahaya. Then he clings passionately to that alone. And nihin to pasati sabba manyam. Everything else he takes it as inferior. So in whatever we perceive our advantage, in that we cling to that and then think of everything else as inferior. So that's the point being made. Now that advantage, put it by Material advantage, it could be even the extent of feeling that suffering is reduced by this way. That also can be seen. Though, of course, anisamam has basically, I have written those meanings. Na? It has a meaning of advantage or profit or praise. Now, you can interpret it either way.
God ऐसे create हो जाते हैं बेचारे. यही है ना.
Because they can give us some relief. Na? It gives us some relief.
Sir, ये बताइए as a digression. So this notion of historically this notion of God etc. in Indian philosophy has what root or came when, or you must obviously have.
The root is not, you see, the issue has been that there have been, if I were to take all that Indian Sanatana Dharma talks of as real, that with that caveat I am saying, that there have been great people like Rama and Krishna in antiquity, and though have been exalted to the status of God because they have exhibited extremely good qualities. And that's how those, the kind of sanctification of the people became. And that became a kind of, then the teachings especially of Lord Krishna are seen in that light. Because then if you believe that Bhagavad Gita was spoken by him, then in that light he is mentioning in that sense that he is a divine incarnation or something like that.
एक बार ये भी तो हो सकता है ना कि उन्होंने एक्सपीरियंस किया हो, मतलब इतने सारे वो, और उसके बाद मतलब वो जैसे होता है ना सिद्धि प्राप्त करते हैं, उस सिद्धि के माध्यम से ये तो क्योंकि
but the fact that I come down and make it come again and again whenever there is the
जब अब वो होता है नहीं, लेकिन
this statement comes from a divine being. So the Buddha mentions about these divine beings existing in celestial planes. He does not deny them. They are all devas, but they are not enlightened in that sense. They are all devas, but people, because of their superior powers and abilities, normal human beings wish to supplicate them, make them, please them in the hope that they will give some security and safety to us. And the fact that devas protect us is even recalled in the sutta which we read, in the Ratana Sutta also it was said that these people are making offerings to you, so you should protect them. So the fact that we want, as human beings, we normally look forward to protection and security, and if somebody gives protection and security into whatever extent, then we tend to look upon the person, the thought, the conception as a God or some such thing. So that's how the conceptions must have arisen.
और creation भी उसी में से निकल के आ गया.
That then you can extrapolate, no? God is all powerful, omnipotent, so therefore there must be a creator God, then there must be a destroyer God. So we built up the trilogy of creation, destruction, and kind of supporting it. So these are all kind of taking it to, if we were to combine it with the Buddha's Deva realms, it is essentially seeing that those Devas being very powerful and being able to bring about changes in the people's lives. So the people who are not really bothered about enlightenment and causing the around the birth and death, for them that is a very good support. If you are interested in crossing the line of birth and death, then they can't be much support to you. They can only provide helpful conditions and things of that kind. Then you have to work your way through. That's how the difference between Samana and Brahmana procedures came in our ancient history. Samanas used to be called those who will do shrama, who will do effort to get through. And Brahmanic tradition believed that gods will help and we'll get liberated.
I see, interesting.
This is the difference. So the devotion is seen to be a method of liberation from the cycle of birth and death. There they sometimes say we'll go to that Devlok and stay there, and that they think Devas are immortal. That the perception in the traditional that some Devas are mortal, but some that Trinity is immortal. That's the thought. That is the way it is believed. Some say not Trinity, but only one is immortal. The Shiva is immortal. This may be there are kind of different points of view. He is the original one. Everything else is created. So these are all not much can come out of that discussion.
So Sudhakar has a point. He says it sounds counterintuitive that powerful beings depend on or receive offerings from us who want protection from them. Sounds like they are police. Please elaborate what offerings they like if they really do.
It is basically seen that good karmas are seen to be that. Doing a good karma is in, that is the traditionally belief. I don't know. That has been of course corrupted in the modern times by making all kinds of things. But it is the subtle offerings of metta and others which are seen to be impacting them.
Mental view.
Yeah. Because in many suttas you hear, yani the bhutani samagatani, bhamma nivanyani ya antalikke. Those who are celestial beings, let them come and listen to the teachings of the Buddha because it is give them welfare. We are doing that. We are teaching this. So our जो हमने रतन sutta पढ़ा, that which we read Ratan Sutta, that said this, that they should come and listen because Buddha is the great, and by that truth, it is a kind of Satyakriya. Satyakriya meaning you are asserting a truth, and on the basis of that truth, the good will come out. So we are asserting the truth that Buddha is the supreme, and by listening to that, people will get benefit. So there are.
लेकिन उन जो देवी देवताओं की हम पूजा करते हैं, जो भी हम मतलब सच्चे मन से करते हैं, वो भी तो ये हम अच्छे कर्म करेंगे तभी हमारा वो कल्याण होता है, तभी हमारी होती है.
But generally belief is that if you do puja, that will be enough. If you go to temple and that is enough, and even if you give your black money in temple, that's alright. Because you are giving donation anyway. Yeah, that is the current perception. Paradigm. So we can't get out of that. You have to speak in English. Your friend has said, Sagar has said that please speak in English as far as possible.
His Hindi is not very good.
So I was speaking with Dada Achalo this time when I was with him on this pilgrimage. So he had a very similar, and I think there are sutta references to this also, that minds that are calmer and that practice more metta. So he in fact has a lot of emphasis on metta, are then aligning themselves to Deva realms.
Devas of there's one Shuddha Asava or some one Devaloka. There's a sutta in which the Buddha goes to forest and people and doesn't get anything to eat, and then some people ask him, and he says that which particular Devalok I forget. Those beings abide, their food is metta only, nothing else. So I can also abide in metta. There's no need.
So I think continuing on the same thing Sudhakar saying, so offering food, naivedyam, is not really received by them, right?
It is the kind of intention behind it. That is important.
Mental volition.
Volition behind it, which is going to be important.
More than the physical.
But unfortunately, we have given emphasis to physical and not to the mental. So that has created a problem. So it is a mental volition with which you are offering. So if I have a volition of surrender and offer anything with that sort of volition, it will obviously set my mind in good position. If I have volition of alobha, it will improve my mind naturally, give me a good feeling, and it will align me with beings who have that kind of a vibration.
Exactly.
So the beings, celestial beings who have that kind of a perception, who like this kind of vibrations, they'll feel pleased and create a good environment for me. So these are only physical means of expressing that. When we say express gratitude to God or anybody for that matter, then gratitude is a very positive mental factor. And we give some donation and we do some charity or give some dana. There was a tradition of giving dana to Brahmins. Now, all that was basically to cultivate this virtue of non-attachment, isn't it? And non-acquisitiveness, to give up acquisitiveness. And in the Abhidhammic tradition, you will say practice alobha. And you practice it to the hilt. There are stories of kings and all who have given up everything because they had decided that they will not refuse anybody who comes to their door. Even in Bodhisattva's life, there is a stories of that kind.
इससे रिलेटेड मुझे याद है हमारे कश्मीरी में मेरी मम्मी की साइड में एक फेस्टिवल होता है कश्मीर में, होता है अभी भी होता है। वहाँ पर वो घर के कोई जैसे फिश वगैरह कुछ बनाते थे, घर के ऊपर रखते थे। मेरे फादर ने खुद मुझे बताया, कहते फिर सुबह जब उठते थे तो जैसे देवता आते हैं वहाँ पर माय फादर टोल्ड मी, मतलब कि वो आके उसको मतलब खाना बिक रहा होता था तो कोई ना कोई आके मतलब रिसीव करता था। क्या सच्चाई है तो
as I understand, subtle bodied beings की एक परिभाषा ये है that they don't consume gross food. This is my understanding of what the Deva
is. Yeah, usually the birds will come in that.
But early morning when you say, this is what my father told me.
But there are, in Kashmir has been a very strong citadel of these belief systems of Shaivism and others. So they have very strong belief in Tantra and other things.
Plus they're closer to Devas also.
Yeah?
They're closer to Devas because of their height. Because of their height, sir.
So they have that belief. That used to be a standard belief in every household in Kashmir, that every house has a Griha Devta. Every house. And then stories would be associated with that.
But this Griha Devta business is there even with ये भी कहते हैं ना that the trees are there when you supplicate.
There are Mumma Divani ya Antalikhe kaha. Those who are living on the earth or on the skies. Antalikhe means Antariksha, basically sky. There are the mention of Devas living on trees is found in Sutta. There is one Sutta where monks go and they start cutting trees so that we can clear the place and stay there. And the Devas protest and then they kind of frighten them. And these people go and tell Buddha that they are frightening us and making us noises and we can't meditate. He said, you should have sought their permission. You can't just go and start doing whatever you like. So there is that perception. There is that, Khanda Paritta Sutta, where the snakes bite a monk and he dies, and again monks go to the Buddha telling that we went to forest and our monks are dying one by one. Snakes are beating them. And he says you should practice metta toward the snake kingdom. Before you enter their realm, you should practice metta. So he teaches them that Khanda Paritta Sutta. And then they go there and preach Khanda Paritta and all the snakes go away. And then nobody is killed. So now these are expressions of that kind of a relationship between nature and human, which can be set up by proper mental volition.
और प्री-वैदिक क्या था दरअसल?
I don't know. that is not really known. Good. So let us go ahead further.
मेरी बात है कौन सा है तम वापि गंधम कुशला वदन्ति यम निश्चितो पश्यति हीनमान्यम
हीनम अन्यम अन्य को हीन मान, considering the other one as inferior.
तस्मा हि दिट्ठं वा सुत्तं मुतं वा शीलबत्तं भिक्खुना निस्सयेय.
Nischaya means they depend on that. Tam vapi gantham kusala vadanti. The kusala means the good people, the experts, the nice people say that it is a bondage. Gantham, what is a bondage? Yam nisito pasati heenamanyam. To see everything else as inferior is actually a bondage. Therefore, tasma hi ditthim va sutam mutam. Therefore, whatever you see, heard or thought, or even upon silabattam, even upon rites and rituals, one should not depend upon them and consider them as a basis of freedom. And let me read the next one. Or would you like to read, Viveka? Can you read? Ditthim api 805.
Ditthim api lokasmin na kapayya nanena va silvatena vapi samoti attana manupennaya hino na manyatha
Visesi
visesi
vapi.
vapi.
Ditthim api lokasmin na kapeya. Kapeya means view. Kalpana nahi karni chahiye. So one should not form any philosophical view in this world. Jnanena va silavatena vapi. Either by on the basis of intellectual analysis or by on the basis of rules and rituals. Shila, Shila and Vrata. Samoti attanam anupanneya hino na manyeta visesi vapi. Therefore, let him not consider himself superior to, equal to, or inferior to others. Attam pahaya anupadiyano jnane piso nisayam no karoti saye viyatesu na vaggasari ditthim apiso na pacheti kinchi. So, attam pahaya, attam means atta, the self-notion has been abandoned, anupadiyano, the clinging has been given up. Jnane piso nisayam no karoti. It doesn't even depend. Nisayam means depend even on the knowledge, intellectual knowledge. Saye viyete suna vaggasari. Vaggasari means the heretic opinion. Ditthim api so na pacheti kinchi. So he does not side in the midst of controversy, and he has no dogmatic views therefore on these issues. Yes. 807.
यस्सु भायन्ते पनिदिद्धा नत्थि भावभावाय इधावाहुरं वा निवेशना तस्सा न सन्ति केचि धम्मेषु निश्चेय समुग्गहितम्.
यस्सु भायन्ते पनिदिद्धा. For whom there is no desire both for bhava bhavaya idva huramva, here or in the other world, there is no desire for both the extremes. Divasena tasya nasanti kechi, for him there is no resting place, there is no place where the mind is rest, it does not get interested in anything. Dhammesu nichcheya samuggahitam, he is not interested in resolving these disputes among the doctrines.
तसिद्धा दिट्ठी वा सुते मुत्ते वा पकपिता नत्थि अनुपि सन्ना सन्ना तम ब्रह्मणं मानं दिट्ठिमया दियाम नम केनिधा लोकस्मिन्
Vikapaya means vikalpana, imagination or thoughts. Tasya idhad here, dittheva suteva muteva, in see what regard to what is seen, heard or thought, pakapita nathi anupi sanya. In him there is not the least prejudiced view with regard to them. Now, Tam Brahmana, it's such a Brahman. Now see, he's redefining a Brahman. Such a Brahman, Ditthim Anadiyanam, who has given up all wrong views, or not, it does not grasp any views. Kenidda lokasmin vikappeya, how can he be characterized by just by thoughts? So such a pure one, he does not grasp any view to be characterized by anyone in the world by thoughts. Basically, same thing is being re-emphasized. Na kappayanti, na purokhiranti, dhammapi tesam na patichya chittas tase, na brahmano silavatena neyo, parangato na paccheti taditi. So they don't form any view, nor do they prefer anything. And Ditthim is the Dhammepi tesam na patichya. They are not accepting any of these dogmatic views. Na brahmano silavatena neyo. So a Brahman is not led by Shila and Vrata, attachment to Shila and Vrata. Parangato na paccheti tadi. Because he has gone to the other shore, such a one, having gone to the other shore, na paccheti tadi. He doesn't return from there. So from him, he defines Brahmana essentially as a Arhant, one who has crossed over and doesn't come back. So the whole emphasis is that it's the philosophical views and getting into them and disputing them with people, considering my view is better than yours, is not a thing which any noble one will do.
Sir, if the thought itself is like this, he is enlightened, or
No.
the experience?
Because he is enlightened, then the thoughts will be like that. Such a thought could be because he doesn't want to dispute anything, you want to be listless, you're not interested, you can be apathetic. Mm-hmm. So it has to be a distinction between apathy and wisdom. Equanimity does not mean apathy, isn't it? So one can mistake apathy for equanimity. They are near enemies. There's a big catch there. One can be apathetic and unbothered, but is not really equanimous.
Like apathic people doesn't understand what it is really.
Because apathy person would not be interested in that, and is not really ignoring. Avidya, a part of avidya, ignorance is what we ignore. You're not experiencing what is happening, and you're not aware of what it is doing to you. You're just ignoring it altogether.
Versus sensitivity.
Yeah, because versus awareness, mindfulness. You're mindful, oh, this is what is happening. It's all right, it's all impermanent.
Achha.
You're mindful of what is happening, you're aware it is happening, but you know it's impermanent. It's nothing personal about it. So there's an unpleasant occurrence, you just observe unpleasant occurrence. Fine, that's okay.
और उस परिस्थिति में क्या होगा?
The other person would not bother about it. Say, apathy is usually with respect to outside. With respect to ourselves, it is very rarely, but there also it can become. Pain is there, it's okay, let it be there. I'm just not bothered.
Sometimes you can get into this thing, and if you have a medical problem, you become apathetic to it.
I've seen so many times, it's just a sankhara. It happens, I remember a person coming to discuss with me and taking everything as a sankhara and getting into serious problems. Not realizing that you have to take care of the body. So we come to our last segment, Abhidhamma. So we had studied, what did we study last time? Sajata Pachya, isn't it? So we'll take up Anya Manya Pachya.
ये आ गया 50 है ना?
Sajat we had done, no?
52.
Yeah. 52. Let us just practice meditation for a few minutes so that we calm down and then listen and imbibe it attentively. So we have been studying Patthana for the last few terms. We started with Hetu Pachayo, Arambana Pachayo, Adhipati Pachayo, Anantara Pachayo, Samanantara Pachayo, Sahajata Pachayo, and then we come to Anyamanya Pachayo, Nissaya Pachayo, and so on. So today we will study the Anyamanya Pachayo.
This is going to shut down. Can we just come to you?
Yeah.
So we'll come here. You want to put battery on it? Or not?
नहीं मेरे पास तार नहीं लाया हूँ साथ.
So Anyamanya Pachayo is Anyamanya means the reciprocity, relationship of one on another. So what does it say? Let me read out first and then we'll discuss. Chattaro khanda adupino Anyamanya Pachena Pachayo. Chattaro Mahabhuta Anyamanya Pachena Pachayo. Okantikhanne Namarupa Anyamanya Pachena Pachayo. So what does it mean? Chattaro khanda, the four khandas, arupino means those which are not other than the rupa. We have 5 khandas, rupa, and 4 mental khandas. Those 4 khandas, anyamanyang pachena pacho, they are mutually related to by the mutuality condition. It's also called mutuality or reciprocity. Meaning, they are the example is given of say tripod. You have 3 sticks. They support each other. If one is falling, other will also fall. So that is what is given as the analogy of Anyamanya Pachayo. So they are all going to support each other. Chattaro Mahabhuta Anyamanya Pachayo. So similarly, the 4 great Mahabhutas, they are also related to one another by the mutuality condition. Okanti Khanne, at the moment of conception, Nam Rupam Anyamanya Pachena Pachayo. At the moment of conception, the mentality and materiality are mutually related to one another. At other moments, they are not mutually related. After one is born, then that mutuality is not there because materiality is governed by so many other factors. So this is Mahabhuta. We had said there will be conditions, and then there will be the Pachya Dhamma and then the Pachupanna Dhamma. Here they are the same. Pachya Dhamma and Pachupanna Dhamma are the same because they are reciprocally related to each other. So, earth element is a Pachya Dhamma and then other 3 will be Pachupanna Dhamma. Or you can take any other element as Pachya Dhamma, other will be Pachupanna Dhamma because they are mutually related to each other.
तो वो इकट्ठे ही उत्पन्न भी होते हैं क्या?
Now, it's not necessary. That's the key thing. We'll see that. So, it is basically a subset of Sahajata Pachayo. So, in that sense, it is true. But not all the Sahajata Pachayo are not Anyamanya Pachayo. That is the difference. So, the 3 sticks set upright against, that's the example given. I put down another example like a football team. It has no meaning. One player has no meaning. It's all put together that they have a meaning, isn't it? Similarly, the various universal mental factors which we have seen,
they all
arise together and they are reciprocal. If one arises, other will also arise. So, what is the comparison with Sahajata Pachayo? That there are Sahajata Pachayo conditions which are not Anyamanya. If you remember, We can just refer back to Sahajata Pachaya. There were 3 things which were in the number 50. If you remember, see the number 50 again. We had used that word Anyamanyan there. Chattaro Khanda Adipino Anyamanya Sahajata Pachye na Pachye. So, then Chattaro Mahabhuta, same thing, Anyamanya Sahajata Pachye. Then Okanti Khanne Namrupam Anyamanya. So these 3 are same. But others are not Anyamanya. Chitta Chetsika Dhamma Chitta Samutthana Nang Rupanang Sahajata Pachye. So the various Chetsikas, they impact the Rupas and they arise together, but they are not reciprocally related to either, because Rupa is not going to influence the Chitta Chetsikas directly. It's not that Rupa should be present, then only Chetsikas will arise. That's not the condition. The Chetsikas can arise only when Chitta is present. That's it. But the Rupa which is created by Chitta will arise only when Chitta is there. So
बिना रूप के तो चित्त नहीं होगा ना. Without the existence of the root, there won't.
No, it's a question of reciprocity, existence. No? The Chitta Chetsika Dhamma, Chitta Samutthana Rupanam. Chitta Samutthana Rupanam. The Rupa which arises because of Chitta, not the other Rupa. Rupa arises because of the Utu also, temperature, weather, food, isn't it? Rupa arises by so many other conditions. So, but the Rupa which is created by Chitta, that will not be reciprocally related to the Chitta. That is a creation of the Chitta in a way. So that is the which arises along with the Chitta. That particular Rupa.
So could the hormones that we generate because of our mental
anger, for example,
mental thing, they are like Chitta
Samutthana Rupanam. Chitta Samutthana Rupanam. Say, for example, in the gross sense, our body becomes red when we get angry. But that red is not related to this.
Okay.
Similarly, Mahabhavata Upadurupa Sahajata Pachye Pachya. So the great primary serve as a condition for dependent matter, but there is not mutuality. Say the water is not going to determine that all the things should be there. Similarly, so that's the difference. It's a finer subdivisions which are being done. Then we come to the Nisaya Pachya. So what we are now seeing is that key thing is that phenomena are related to each other not just by one condition. Even though these are distinct conditions, there can be more than one condition simultaneously present. You remember we had seen that there are never one cause and one effect. In our normal scientific terminology, we think of one cause and one effect. We put a billiard ball and it comes back. I hit it and it comes back. And the psychology also we say, I abuse you, you abuse me. So cause effect, in the Pavlovian psychology, that is how we see. But here he points out that it's not like that. There are multiple causes, multiple effects, and even one cause and one so-called effect are related in multiple ways. So it's a highly complex situation. So is the Nisaya Pachya. So it's also called a dependence or support condition. So the example which Lady Sayadaw gives is like the trees have to depend on earth or ground, without which there will not be any tree. Now paintings have to depend on cloth where they are painting. Okay, without which there will not be any painting. Earthen pots have to depend on earth material, without which there cannot be earthen pots. So there is a dependence of it. But if you see that carefully, these three are different nuances of dependence. They are not same kind of dependence. The earth and supporting the tree, we have already seen, it is a hetu pachaya. It is a support of a very strong kind. Paintings, depending on cloth, is a support. The earthen pot, depending on earth, is a support, but of a different kind, because the earth is itself getting transformed. So, there are fine nuances which are being pointed out to us. That's the case. Now, let me read the Nisaya Pachya. Chattaro khanda arupino anyamanyang nissaya pachena pacho. So here is anyamanyang also and nissaya also. Chattaro mahabhuta anyamanyang nissaya pachena pacho. Okanti khane nam rupam anyamanyang nissaya pachena pacho. So all those things which we already spoke of, those three conditions in Sahajata and Anyamanya, they are also obviously dependent on it. So there is a dependence also on it. Chitta Chetsika Dhamma Chitta Samuttanang Rupanang Nissaya Pachena Pachya. Same thing what we studied in this. Mahabhuta Upadara Upa Sanissaya Pachena.
तो बिल्कुल सहजात ही लग रहा है.
हाँ बिल्कुल उसी तरह के हैं ना. So when they are arising together, they are also dependent on each other. Na? They are also dependent on each other.
So सहजात और निश्चय में क्या difference है?
In Sahajata there are some which are arising together. In others cases there may not be arising together. Still they may be there. And there is Anyamanyang which may reciprocity which you have seen. In some it is there, in others it is not there. Now we will see the more intricate dependence. Chakhu ayatanam Chakhu vinyana dhatuya tansampayutta kanancha dhammanam nissaya pachena pachayo. So I Chakhu ayatana means eye base. That is, and Chakhu vinyana dhatu means the eye consciousness. Sampayutta kanancha dhammanam and all other associated mental factors, they are really dependent on the Chakhu ayatana, isn't it? Because the eye base is the support of all the everything else is happening. Similarly, Sota ayatana, Ghanna ayatana, Jivva ayatana, Kaya ayatana. So let me read out for sake of completeness. Sota ayatana, Sota vinyana dhatuya, tansampayutta kanancha dhammanam, nissaya pachena pachayo. Ghana ayatanam, Ghana vinyana dhatuya, tansampayutta kanancha dhammanam, nissaya pachena pachayo. Jivva ayatanam, Jivva dhatuya, Jivva vinyana dhatuya, tansampayutta kanancha dhammanam, Nissaya pachena pachayo. Kaya ayatanam, Kaya vinyana dhatuya, tansampayutta kanancha dhammanam, Nissaya pachena pachayo. So these five sense sphere interactions, they are dependent on their corresponding eye base. It could be eye, the ear, nose, and so on. Now comes the overall. Yam rupam nissaya mano dhatuya mano vinyana dhatuya cha vattanti tam rupam mano dhatuya cha mano vinyana dhatuya cha tan sampayutta kanancha dhammanam nissaya pachena pachayo. So whatever rupa is on which the mano dhatu is dependent or mano vinyana dhatu is dependent, that rupam is related to that by nissaya pachayo. That is by it acts as a dependence for that. And also tam sampayutta kanancha dhammanam, and all the associated dhammas which arise, chetsikas which arise with the mano vinyana dhatu. So that is the dependence which happens. So essentially now if you study, these dependencies themselves are further nuances which I pointed out to you. There are three different kinds of dependencies. One is Sahajata dependence, co-nascent, which is Sahajata Nissaya Pachaya. So that you can call it Sahajata Nissaya, just as you pointed out, they are Sahajata Nissaya Pachaya. Then there is basic pre-existent dependence, a new condition is imposed, which means something should be pre-existent. Eye base should be pre-existent, then only seeing will happen, not otherwise. They cannot arise together. Eye base has to be existent. Similarly, all the other five sense bases have to exist before this happens, before the eye consciousness can arise. So it is called Purejata Pacha, which will come later. Purejata will also come, but since it is involved, so we have to mention it here. So we call that Purejata Nissaya Pachaya. Okay. Then there is another dependence which is basic pre-existent dependence. What is that? Chakhu ayatanam chakhu vinyana dhatuya sampayutta kanam dhamma. So this is what we have discussed, the basic pre-existent dependence, which I have explained. Then the basic objective pre-existent dependence, where the rupa is also acting as an object. Arambana pachya, remember? So where that arambana condition is also operating. Which the example is given. Yam rupam nissaya mano dhatuya cha mano vinyana dhatuya cha vattanti tam rupam mano dhatuya cha mano vinyana dhatuya cha tam sampayutta kanancha dhammanam nissaya pachena pachya. So that rupam is actually an object, isn't it? A rupa we have seen is an object. For example, the external object, I am seeing it. So this is an object which makes the seeing possible. So this is related to the seeing by object clause, arambana pachu. And that seeing will give rise to the mental factor and the manovinyana tattva. So it is related to that vattu arambana purejata nisaya pachu. So it has become so much of dependence on it. So the example is given, Saddha or sound, when it is serving as an arambana or object, gives rise to a series of chittas like receiving chitta, investigating chitta, and so on, which we have discussed already in the Abhidhamma. So for all of them, this becomes an object relationship also. In addition to dependence, in addition to pre-existence, it also is an object relationship. So there is so many kinds of conditionalities are simultaneously operating. So you can see the complexity, how is it building up. Then we come to the Upanisaya Pacho. Let's say most strong support condition. So Upanisaya means decisive support condition. Now this is being used to explain almost most of the phenomena which we normally find it difficult to understand. Purima kusala dhamma pachimanam kusalanam dhammanam upanisaya pachena pache. Purima kusala dhamma pachimanam akusalanam dhammanam kesanchi upanisaya pachena pache. Purima kusala dhamma pachimanam abhyakatanam dhammanam upanisaya pachena pache. So the Purima means the earlier one, the wholesome mental states which Kushala Dhamma, which arise, the foregoing, preceding Kushala Dhamma. Pachimanam is later, they can give rise to Kushalanam Dhamma, which is quite apparent. That the foregoing mental states being wholesome, it will give rise to wholesome mental states later. And this is by strong dependence condition. It means it's bound to happen in that manner. But Purima kusala dhamma pachimanam akusalanam dhammanam kesanchi means sometimes under certain conditions the earlier arising kusala dhammas will give rise to akusala dhammas also. That we had seen, you remember I had mentioned it earlier. That is explained in the later investigative section of Patthana, but I'll just preempt it. Pointed out that if you do a dana and then you get proud. So dana was done, wholesome thing, and you get proud about it.
But so तो अकुशल अपने आप ही हो गया अगर आपने उस इंटेंट से दान दिया.
तो वोल्यूशन तो वही था.
नहीं, शुरू तो आपने अच्छा दिया.
अच्छा, वोल्यूशन ठीक था.
लेकिन बाद में लगा कि देखो मैं कितना अच्छा हूँ. बाकी लोग तो दान देते ही नहीं है.
मुश्किल है. और दान देने के बाद कभी आ ही जाता है कि दे दिया. आता ही है तो फिर मतलब क्या करा सब बिगड़ गया.
दरअसल ये कीर्तन
गुण को ऊपर हो गया बस. गुण को ऊपर.
ये हाँ फंसा दिया.
उसमें सर ये कोई कॉम्प्लिकेशन नहीं है ना कीर्तन में. जनरली
प्रेयर ये मंदिर सांस में बड़ी बड़ी
ये बात है. उससे एनलाइटमेंट नहीं होने वाली है. दुखों से छुटकारा वो तो है, ये वही है मतलब.
No escape.
No escape. You can't escape from Buddha, you can escape from so many things.
वो है ना करते करते अकुशल हो जाता है.
सब
शुरू से किया हुआ सब पट्टा को.
No, so therefore mindful, we have to be mindful all the time.
We have to be mindful, but उसका इतना असर नहीं होता होगा. जैसे अकुशल हुआ तो होश आ गया.
If you are mindful, you become again. It is just like a spike. It is a spike. But दिक्कत तब होती है. But the problem arises when you really become, oh wonderful.
But then
and then you brag about it, and then you go on telling, see you are. Then it is really overpowered you.
But sir, from Abhidhammic point of view, I think these are two different mind states. First, the intention was right, and then so how could the dependence of a Kushala Dhamma mind state become an Akushala Dhamma? वो तो अलग mind state थी जब हमारा intention सही था और जब
कंडीशनैलिटी तो हुई ना. बट व्हाट इज द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन देम? रिलेशनशिप बता रहे हैं ना कि अगर आप सजग नहीं रहोगे तो ये भी हो जाएगा. He is explaining the conditionality. He is not saying कि इसके कारण हो रहा, वो कारण वाला चक्कर नहीं है, cause वो नहीं है. That's why we have a modern scientific cause effect नहीं है ये. It's not cause effect. It is conditionality. So you did a wholesome job. Even Sheel even doing a Sheela, even doing a Jhana practice can next mind state can be unwholesome.
शुरू में तो आ ही जाता है ना, अभी इतने पर्यटक को थोड़ी.
So धीरे-धीरे one has to be mindful of that. If you are not mindful, then you start gloating in it. Oh, what a wonderful person, what a wonderful donor, what a wonderful charity, and so on, and then you get into trouble. But if you are really mindful, then the wholesome mental state will promote us to do more. Generosity, morality, spiritual, each of them will promote us to do more and more, because we are mindful of it. Because once we see the benefits, then our faith will increase, then we will feel, yeah, nahi, achhi cheez hai, we should go on doing it. Then our understanding increases, our kindness. So this can act in a positive manner also. So purima kusala dhamma pachimanang kusalanang dhammanang upanissa. So it can be a decisive support for that. But then he says, kesanchi, he has used that word, kesanchi, under certain conditions. Sometimes. And sometimes it can lead to indeterminate state. That of course is easily seen. Then purima kusala dhamma pachimanang kusalanang dhammanang upanissa pachu, that I have explained. Then this also is done. So then I have written, the next slide I have written that what I just now said. For example, when we are generous, we may become proud of it and look down upon those who are not so generous. Same kind of conceit can happen when we keep moral precepts. Thus generosity or morality may lead to unwholesome states. And the example which I have noticed is, for example, Devadatta achieving jhanas. He had got jhanic power, but he got so proud that he started displaying it, and eventually, you know what he ended up in.
अच्छा जादू टोने करता था वो?
नहीं, he had that power of flying, So it is said that to impress the king Bimbisara, he went flying to his palace and asked for bhiksham, alms. So the Ajatashatru was very much impressed by him and became friendly with him. And then he conspired with him to try to kill Buddha and all that. Then similarly, one can get trapped in tranquility in Vipassana. You can get trapped in it and then see, because while you're practicing Vipassana, you do experience Priti, Prasabdhi, and then you can get trapped in it. Yes, yeah. See, I have achieved wonderful things. Tumhari sadhana to you're still long way to go.
But there's many people actually articulate this, huh?
So this is the caution.
Especially 10th day or 9th day, whatever it is.
This is the caution which is given. Then you come to akusala. Purima akusala dhamma pachimanang akusalanang dhammanang upanissa. This is what obvious. Unwholesome mental state of greed or selfishness or anger, it will definitely give rise to wrong view and violence.
यहाँ उल्टा नहीं होता कभी?
इसमें भी ऐसे. See, purima akusala dhamma pachimanang kusalanang dhammanang kesanchi upanissa. Kesanchi. कभी under certain conditions it can give rise to this, because you done an unwholesome action and then you regret it and you feel sad. Oh, I shouldn't have done it. And then you practice metta, you practice generosity, you practice things.
You can experience it also. कुछ है जी उम्मीद.
So unwholesome acts also are important.
And then the whole practice of meditation which we do because of suffering and realizing that our mind states are very bad, and then we practice.
जिस समय जैसे ये आज जागृत होता है, उसी समय अवेयर रहो कि देखो ये आ रहा है, मतलब
then its effect is very small.
हर समय देखते रहो ना कि जो हो रहा है, चाहे वो अकुशल हो रहा है, कुशल हो रहा है.
If you are mindful, there is no issue at all.
Because you are not mindful always, whether it is kushla or akushla, it is coming.
Does not matter. Then it does not matter at all. Then it just arises and passes away.
मुझे तो लगता है जो कुछ हो रहा है उसको देखते रहो बस. अच्छा है बुरा कुछ नहीं करो. अच्छा आ रहा है बुरा आ रहा है, सहजात हो रहा है या नहीं, सहजात है यार, किंचित जाता है, तू किंचित जाती रहे, सहजाती रहे, but you keep on observing this thought has come.
For example, the example which I have given is our pride, which is an akushala, can encourage us to perform meritorious deeds to outdo our rivals. And slowly that meritorious deed will change the mindset. Regret about evil can encourage us to do good deeds. King Ashoka is given as an example, isn't it? After having killed so many, he felt remorse, and then see the kind of transformation which took place.
So ये तो actually काफी होता है कि भाई
रिग्रेट वाला
regret वाला बहुत होता है.
But that can be converted into, should convert into a wholesome thing, you know. Otherwise, remorse can lead to depression and not a kushala. That is a big, again there is that catch. Purima Purima Akusala Dhamma Pachimanang Pachimanang Abhyagathanang Dhanya. Abhyagata means indeterminate. That is bound to happen with every mental state because you go to receiving chitta and all that. We have already discussed it, so I'm not spending time on that. Then Purima Purima Abhyagata Dhamma. That is quite understood. If it is a indeterminate state, it can either go to wholesome or it can go to unwholesome, depending on the state of what is the perception which arises along with it. So the example I have given is very strong, of course. If one suffers from HIV and has a strong intention to help fellow patients to be free from such a horrible disease, so suffering which we get is a indeterminate, it is Vipaka Chitta. Now Vipaka Chitta can lead to, in one case it can say, oh, I am suffering from serious disease, and you know there is an example of people who have done it. Then they set up foundations and for helping people and curing. And there's also the tragedy of people who have got that disease and they took injection and applied to others. This has also happened. So they can see that Vipaka Chitta leading to.
हमारे रिलेशन में उसको वही था जो काम वालों का जिसको.
हाँ उसको तो he didn't happen because of this. It happened because of accident. He was doing MD. That was a different thing.
इंजेक्शन जो लगाया था.
He was taking blood sample from patients and then
वही तो अपने को लगाया था.
he applied it to himself because he forgot that he should change this.
Forgot.
Yeah.
Doctor
I don't know what happened. He was doing MD in.
उसने अपने को लगा.
हाँ. अब डेथ हो गई फिर बाद.
He applied it to himself and then he of course said, but probably he was wanting to see the effect on himself. And that was a disastrous blunder he did. And he passed away later at a young age. He was such a brilliant person. One mistake and you're done with. Then another one is Utu Bhojanampi Upanissaya Pachena Pache. Utu means temperature, weather. Bhojanampi means the food. Puggalopi means the beings. Upanissaya Pache. Beings can also be decisive support. Now that means in terms of the beings you associate with, the friends which you have, they can have a decisive support. So the food can have a decisive support on your mental state. It can be both wholesome and unwholesome. Similarly, friends, good or bad friends, if you want to call it, can cause spiritual progress or decline. Senasanampi, similarly about the dwelling place and the place on which you sit. They can also have a strong impact on your spiritual progress. So that's the Upanissaya Pache. So if you see them, again there are the three sub-conditions of the Upanissaya Pache. So I have written down in the notes the Lady Sayadaw's translation. He actually translates it as the sufficing condition. That it is sufficient. This condition is sufficient to cause that condition. So he says there are three different kinds. So we have put down there. There is object, Arambana, then Anantara, contiguity, and Pakat Upanissaya. So object one which we have already studied, isn't it? We know that. And Anantara also we have already studied. Now this Pakat Upanissaya is the most dominant one. It is called naturally decisive support condition. And this would need a greater discussion. I think we'll do it in the next session because that needs much greater study. I found, when I was discussing this issue of I mentioned to you, I discussed about how the latent tendencies are transmitted, there is no way, and how are these happening across lifetimes. And I wrote to Bhikkhu Vadi, and then I wrote to that German nun who's Abhidhamma teacher. German में क्या कहते हैं? Netherlands वालों को क्या कहते हैं? Dutch. There's a Dutch nun who's trained by Papa Asad.
अच्छा.
Yeah. Agganeni or something she calls herself. So then I wrote to her also, and both of them said it is Pakatupanasya condition. So it is happening because of this Pakatupanasya condition. So it needs,
For example,
detailed conditions study. So we'll study it in more detail.
शिद्रामत अस्पताल में शिद्रामत कहते हैं ऐसे जाओ अच्छा है.
So this is what we are up to.
Any questions from our online participants? Any questions, Deepak? I hope I have fulfilled your duty faithfully. कुछ problem तो हुई थी, but I think in the end
We
everything
could
was-
manage.
Yeah, we could manage. So there is a question from Sudhakar. So what is or are the receiving parts in the body for good vibrations, which are the distributing parts in the body for sending good vibrations? Goenka ji mentions this in 10-day discourse. The enemies, craving, aversions, agitation, laziness, doubt have come as guests and taken over the house. When Vipassana is practiced, they have to go and they won't leave easily but create lot of obstacles. What is he meaning by enemies? Is this common to every meditator? Sometimes it is very difficult to figure out if I have to equanimous to sankhara or run to the doctor to complain about the painful sensation. Several times I went to a doctor and he says there is no problem, but I had pain. After a few visits to the hospital, decided to be equanimous, then the sankhara faded away. But the pattern repeats with sensations elsewhere in the body.
See, if as a general advice,
Since there are 5 questions, so we will have to.
as a general advice, during meditation, if pain arises, as a general advice, I mean general means not always. Just during meditation, pain arises, it is a sankhara giving rise to the affecting the body, and so one need not be really worried about it. If that pain persists for too long after not meditated and you stop meditation, it persists for too long. For some time it can, but if it persists for too long, then one should really go. One doesn't have to go to a doctor every time. The issue is of a discrimination, really, to be begun to figure out. The intense long courses, Sudhakar has done many long courses, I know that. And during long courses, you can have pains in the body and other kind of things for a few years. For a few years meaning in the few years of practice. But a time comes when these pains subsequently don't happen, because some aversive tendencies have reduced. Pain is directly associated with aversive tendencies, because that is the nature's mechanism of creating aversive tendencies to arise.
But so pain because of sitting?
Because it's difficult to say. It could be that, it could be physical illness, it could be sankhara coming out, or it could be a vipaka chitta. Basically, it is a vipaka chitta. See, when we meditate, which vipaka chitta will arise is not known. Now, if I have a very strong content of aversive vipaka chittas, then I have a lot of pain. So when a lot of pain happens, it is a result of vipaka chitta aversion. And that if I see that pain equanimously, that vipaka chitta will slowly fade away. I am not intensifying that. And therefore, after some years of practice, you find that even in long courses, no pain happens. Just mild things happen and nothing happens. I can say it from my experience and from of hundreds of students. So in the beginning, you used to have a lot of pain, especially during anapana and all. And after 5-10 years, no pain. It's all minor things. That's all. That too, fatigue primarily. Why? Because aversive tendencies have reduced. And that we can see from our day-to-day behavior also. If our aversive tendencies are reduced, then we have that kind of experience. Now the tragedy happens that when we have greed-oriented tendencies, then pleasant sensations arise in the body, and we think that we have got wonderful achievement in the process, and then we begin to enjoy them, and our tendencies of craving keep on increasing, and then when craving increases, aversion also comes in back.
Because it's the other side.
Because it is the other side of that. So we have to be very careful when the pleasant sensations arise, that we don't take them personally and take it as an achievement. Because problem is that when after unpleasant sensations, pleasant sensations begin to arise, we take them personally as an achievement. Oh, see, I had unpleasant sensations, now I don't have unpleasant. Now I have pleasant, so I have gone up a ladder. So I have gone up a ladder, but then I have fallen down below that ladder also, because I am creating craving for that. Now to be mindful of that is quite tough, because it's so alluring and enticing and wonderful, and it gives you you can always give a pat on your own back. Oh, badhiya, I have become a good meditator now, because you start taking it personal achievement. So that's where the issue of Ajaan Sumeto comes up again and again and again. If you don't take things personally, then the chances of observing pleasant sensations with equanimity are there. Otherwise, it's a very difficult call. We easily fall a prey to that.
So some of the earlier questions, which are the receiving parts in the body for good vibration, which are the distributing parts?
Well, Goenka ji says that, but I am not aware of it in anywhere in any sutta is not mentioned, but it's a part of Burmese tradition, I think. They talk of the head, top of the head as the receiving part, and for metta they talk of the heart center as giving out metta.
आपका experience क्या है दर्शन अपना?
It happens both ways. When I pray, whatever you believe in, you experience that. Frankly, I'm telling you. It happens that way. It happens in science, That's how Newton's theory lasted 400 years.
No, but if you look at the science, the double slit experiment says that if you believe it is a particle, it will behave like a particle. If you believe it is a wave, it will behave like a wave.
Yeah, that's it.
So, and the next question was Goenka mentions in 10-day course the enemies, 4 enemies have come as guests and taken over the house. When Vibhushana is active, they won't go and leave.
Yeah.
Your house until you create love. What is the meant by enemies?
Enemy means these nevarans, 5 nevarans. These are basically the defilements which are carried on in the Sankhara stream. Our latent tendencies, you can say. Latent tendency of aversion, latent tendency of craving, latent tendency of restlessness, latent tendency of doubt. So all these we carry. So those latent tendencies are the enemies, which puts in a nice dramatic way that they will capture you. But don't worry, you can handle them by your 5 friends. So, but if you take it Abhidhammic perspective, they are the latent tendencies which manifest in various forms as Vipak Chittas. And we must see it for that. If you see it as a Vipak Chitta, not me, not mine, then it's fine. A little bit of pain here, a little bit of pain there, and matter goes. Or even large amount of pain there, large amount of pain here, and you are just observing. It will go. It may for some time increase, sometime decrease, but eventually it will go, because aversive tendency is gone. If aversive tendency is gone, then only it will go, not otherwise. Because